Hi and welcome to this section where we are going to look at the different options that are available for microservices from AWS. So in this section we are going to look at the different services in AWS. The first of them is AWS EC2 and the Elastic Load Balancer. Now in an application, one of the options that you do have is to have an EC2 instance or a couple of them and then place them behind an application load balancer. This is the simplest form of design. So what you can do is that you can host your different services on these EC2 instances behind the application load balancer. So you can have instance segregated based on the demand. So if you feel that you have small services which are not being requested that frequently, you can club them up into one EC2 instance. Similarly, if you have a service which is being used, with a high utilization, you can put it on a separate EC2 instance. You can then use an application load balancer for these multiple endpoints. So this is the basic form of working with services. Now during the development phase, it's very important to split out your services. So this was a key architecture pattern. Divide your code into services, into small services. This can be based on the domain, on the requirement. And then if you are splitting the services and putting them on an EC2 instance, you can then use the application load balancer to split the requests. Now in our demo, we're going to be using an application throughout this particular section. This is just to showcase the architecture of microservices, and we are not going to dwell deep into the actual code. So you can use a variety of programming languages. We're going to be using PHP, and you could have complex applications, complex code, but I'm not going to dwell into that. The entire aspect of this section is just to put into your mind what should be the bare essentials of a microservices based application. So we're going to have a simple PHP app. Now this app has a demo app.php that will be our front page, our presentation layer. Then I have separate modules of order.php and price.php. So in order to segregate, I said services, I'm going to have one separate service for order.php and one separate for price.php. The information from these particular PHP files will then be picked up by our demo app.php. So now let's go on. I just want to show you the app itself and just a brief on the code, and then we can actually move on to the next section, which is, we're looking at the different data options. So let's quickly go on and see the code and where I'm hosting this particular app. So here I'm in the AWS console. I've spun up a simple EC2 instance. It's using Ubuntu. I've installed Apache, I've installed PHP, and then what I've done is that I've copied one simple demo application. So this is our demo app.php. I'm not going to go into details about this app. It's just a simple page. It has 3 items which are for sale. And what I want to bring your attention to is that each item has a quantity and a price. Now this quantity is being picked up by our order.php and the price is being picked up from a price.php. And the idea behind this is that I can make changes to these individual files without affecting the entire application. And that's the entire idea of microservices. One of the important aspects is to separate the layers of concern. So if I just quickly go on to the code itself. So I'm just showing you one of the PHP files. So this is an orders.php. Currently, I just have some simple functions and I'm just returning some static data for the moment in time. And if I go on to the demo app.php, it's using some bootstrap code. And along with that, it's just basically calling the functions from the individual PHP pages. I said it's a simple app. It is just to make you understand the separations of concerns in a microservices application. So this is the simplest form. I've just, created one application. I hosted it on an EC2 instance and I'm accessing it, which you can also give to your end users. So now let's move on to our next video, which is decentralized AWS data options.